Welcome to Kinship Cafe. I am your host, Jim Jones, and today I am joined with Jimmy and Enrique.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having us, Jim.
Oh,
Thank you to the Kinship Cafe.
Hey, thanks so much for coming on board today.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
So great to have you guys here. One of the things I like about this show is I get to have my friends on and find out more about them. Things I didn't know before.
And likewise.
Yeah. So today we're going to talk about something that's a little bit heavy, but I think it's going to be really valuable for us and for our audience because it gets to the heart of the matter when we're talking about well-being and meaning in life. And we're going to explore what happened with Enrique having a heart attack.
Yeah.
Was that 3 years ago?
That was exactly today, 3 years ago.
Today.
Isn't that amazing?
That
today.
is crazy.
And
how
I'll
that-
tell you the story, but yeah, exactly. That is amazing. That is exactly today.
And we did not plan it that way.
We didn't plan that way, so that's the way. So it's a good,
Yeah.
it's a good subject to start with.
Right on. Well, before we dive in deep on that, would you guys like to open us up with a song?
Let's do it.
Sure, want to do it?
You wanna do it? Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Excellent.
All right, okay.
Wow, guys, that was super fun. So, what is the song you played for us?
That was called Perfidia.
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 Yeah, it's like a, popular traditional bolero, right? It's a cha-cha-cha, actually. We play more like that style, but we always twist it, and of course Jimmy do an amazing arrangement in that song. So,
And he normally sings that song in Spanish. But,
Oh, really?
But not today.
but today we try to show more what we do.
Instrumental.
Because I think one of the things that that we like also to show and is like, when people see us on stage, sometimes looks easy, but it's a lot of things going on, and we like to show also that because it's part of our self sharing with everybody what else happening, like like what's going on in the feed, and Jimmy's doing all this, but he makes it look so simple, but it's really complicated, right?
Yeah.
So we decided to do it that way, so we can share that with you guys.
Oh, I appreciate that, and I've known you guys for a number of years now, and just love every time you're performing at something we do. It's so much fun.
Thank you.
Definitely bring great energy to the work you do. So, how did you guys get connected?
I was actually playing at a restaurant, just solo, in San Marcos called Fire's Folly. It's not there anymore. But he got booked there to play with the trio.
Oh,
And so after the night you played, the owner put the both of us together.
Really?
Booked a date for the both of us to come and play, and we had never played together before, and so it was a magical night.
wow.
So that's how we met, through a restaurant owner.
Interesting. And he had the vision to put you guys together.
She, yeah.
Tammy.
Tammy, if you're watching, Tammy.
You got Tammy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was the one. And it was very interesting because she told me, you have to play with this guitar player. And I met Jimmy a couple of years before, right? I met you. But
You were playing.
Yeah.
He was playing at the fair.
Yeah, and then
And then I
we
met
say
you at the
hi,
fair.
then I know everybody knows Jimmy, So we played that night, and then it was like, wow, this is really cool.
Yeah.
And then from there on, we started playing.
Well, thank you, Tammy.
Thank you, Tommy. And it's really cool. Every time we have a new gig or we play in an event, she showed.
Oh,
Yeah.
right on.
So
Well, you guys definitely have a very full sound, and part of it is this unique style that you use, Jimmy. And I think, gosh, I must have been in high school or 80s maybe. I'm thinking of was it Stanley Jordan?
Stanley Jordan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was the first time I saw that kind of like hammer on rhythm kind of an idea with the lead simultaneous, and I was just like, wow, And then here you are doing.
Same for me in high school. I found out about him, and I was just blown away. I didn't know you could do that on the guitar, and so I've kind of worked on it for many years, and then eventually I got to do a concert with Stanley Jordan.
You
I
did?
did, yeah.
I did not know that. How did that go?
Yeah, it was so fun.
Wow.
Yeah, very, very nice guy. And, very shyer than I am.
Well, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
I had no idea. And I've even seen you bust out 2 guitars and do one on your lap and one on your.
I know.
It gets really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we will have a chance to come back and do some more music in a little bit later. But why don't we jump into our topic today? Enrique, you want to just kind of maybe start with kind of what happened?
yeah, it's like I said, it was exactly 3 years ago, and we were at a gig actually.
At a gig.
At a gig, and then I started to do a timbal solo. We were playing with a big orchestra, and
Orchestra.
sometimes we will play with a big.
It's like a corporate dance band. Yeah. So it was a kind of a bridal showcase.
Wow.
Yeah, we were having a lot of fun that day. We were having a lot of fun, and then they say timbal solo, and then I started to do timbal solo, and then all of a sudden I went like, and then I felt like a shortcut, like I exactly felt like energy coming through my heart, to my arm, and my arm went numb, and I got scared.
Yeah.
And that was my first reaction. I was like, no, this is not happening. because when those things happen, you never understand why that happened to you.
Yeah.
You always believe that you are untouchable, right? Or at least myself,
especially being like young.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Young and we
And you work out. You work
exactly.
out all the time, and yeah.
We work out. I work out, and we work out, and then we try to take care of ourselves. And when that happened, it was like a moment. Like I always say, like the time stopped. And in that moment, it's very interesting. That moment was very interesting for me in my life, because I felt like I had a choice to or relax or panic. And that's exactly that way.
Like right in that moment. you're saying.
Right that moment. Right moment stops, and it's like, it's very interesting when I explain that, because in that moment I feel that I have the choice or to choose to panic, or to choose to calm down and basically listen to my body.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting, because in that moment, I used to be a swimmer.
Okay.
I used to be a swimmer, and I used to be a competitive swimmer. And I did the trials for the LA Olympics for Mexico.
Really?
Yeah. And I always felt like, oh, I swim all my life, But one of the things that they show me and I know a lot of people that swim, is like, slow your breath, into your heart and calm down. Yeah. And I think that what I learned through those years saved my life, part of it, But I think that, to me, also thinking in that moment, everything came in my head. My daughters, the first thing, and immediately I look at Jimmy, and I came down on stage, and he came, "Are you okay?" Because he knows me, so he's like, "Are you okay?" And I told him, "I think I'm having a heart attack." And Jimmy told me, "Oh, don't scare me." I was like, "No, yeah, I think so." And I calmed down, and my arm was numb, and we still pack our things.
Really?
And he drove all the way home.
And I drove.
Wow.
Left Jimmy. My daughters were. Jimmy's wife was taking care of my daughters, so I picked up my daughters, put him in the car, went to home, and then I put him in bed. And it's very interesting, because that moment right there, and I get a little emotional about that moment, because that moment to me was the key. I put my daughters in bed. I was sure that they were asleep, and I went to bed. And in that moment, I always say the story. I felt like around the corner of my door, I was again the life, the universe, or God, whatever you wanna feel.
Yeah.
Give me the choice. You wanna walk through the door, or you wanna go through this door? And I felt that a very strong energy. And I felt in that moment, I was in my cell phone, and I looked, Google, what is this? I Google it.
Yeah.
It's like, you better call 911.
Oh, yeah.
And then in that moment, I said, no, I think I'm gonna be fine. I closed my eyes. In that moment, something wake me up. It's like, no, you need to call right now. And I called.
Wow.
I called my neighbor. My neighbor came, stayed with the girls, and then the paramedics came, and they told me, you are okay. You don't have anything.
Really?
And I was like, well, I don't think so. I feel like I have something, And they take me to the emergency rooms, and they did all the tests, and they couldn't find it. They couldn't find anything wrong. But I think that my doctor, my cardiologist, was really, of course, he's a person with a lot of experience, but he came and it's like, no, something is not right here. And then in the blood, they show up that I was having a heart attack.
Wow.
But that's what I think that, to me, the most important part is that part what I was telling you, when I decide to take action or take the other direction, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know what's the other direction, but what I always said is like that changed my life right there.
I imagine for a lot of people, if you, like you said, packed up and went home, you probably would have started telling yourself, well, it can't be that, because how could I do all this?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, I imagine it was hard to kind of get to that point in where you feel like, okay, I really do need to follow up on this.
Yeah, and I think that the shocking part is when you really feel fragile, you know. Like I said, I always tell everybody, you never know when things gonna happen to you, right? Because I never imagined that it's gonna happen to me ever.
Yeah.
You know? And in that moment that I was there, I basically say I born again.
Kind of gave you a whole different perspective on life.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, so how did that change? What were you going through?
Well, did you know one of the things that even like now we're talking about music, like changed my whole vision of music.
Really?
Because before, I think when I was playing more from the guts, like solos, and now after that, I really start to look more for the connection with the people. And it was something that is very interesting that happened is, I sing in some of the shows. Before, I was like so afraid to sing.
Yeah.
I was so afraid to sing. And Jimmy always encouraged me. And I like this guy because he always pushing me. No, let's do this, and this, and this. And I like that because it challenged me, right? And then I started to sing. But I think I was just screaming, or I was not singing from the heart, And it's very interesting because the first comment after that, the first show that I have after the heart attack, somebody came is like, your singing is different.
Really?
And I feel like I start to perceive the life different.
So you said that the concept of connecting with the music, as opposed to just going out and going crazy, right? That you wanted to have more of a connection with people. What was the motivation for that? Why was that connection important?
Well, I think that it was just like a necessity, because before we used to go and this myself, I was like playing, having fun.
We were kind of, I don't know, maybe just kind of playing for ourselves. Well, which is fine too, but I mean, I just love it when you can kind of connect with the people, our audience, and it just it's so different. It feels different.
It feels different,
Mm-hmm.
And it's like when that comment really shocked me, just starting, because I felt it when I was singing. And in my first visit with the cardiologist, I was really shocked. I was kind of mad at myself, and at the same time I was like wondering why this happened to me,
Yeah.
And the doctor told me something that really made me change my vision of life, because he says, like, you know what happened in the past, that's the past. You have now the opportunity to make a change in your life. Imagine that you're a car that it was getting. Imagine that we did an oil change and all the service on you. Now everything is clean. Now, from now on, you need to take care of it, of your body. And so, So
what kind of changes did you have to make?
Well, first of all, take care of my body. More conscious about what I put inside my body. Food, especially, and having really, a routine of eat, like taking care of your body, like have your breakfast. Have a good meal, rest, for example. Like it was a moment that we were playing, how many shows a week?
Oh yeah, I mean 5 or 6 nights a week.
Plus sometimes one time I count 9 gigs from Thursday to Sunday.
Oh wow.
It was nonstop.
And we won't eat anything, and just all the gigs were back to back, and then we would, finish our last gig for the day, and then go through Jack in the Box or something like that at 2 a.m, and then
Right.
and then
Yeah, Jimmy got even sick too.
I got, yeah, so yeah, I mean, it was a wake up call for me, after experience, and I went to, I was having a lot of stomach pain, and so I went to get a physical, and they looked at it, and then they did some tests, and yeah, they said, oh, you better change everything.
Really?
Yeah, and I was worried because we're pretty much around the same age, and I eat really bad. I mean,
No, and Jimmy Maurer, because he played more days than me a week, so he was like one next to the other one, next to the other one. Right?
yeah. So so the doctor told me, I wasn't too far behind from having a heart attack myself. Yeah. So,
Wow. So the first thing then it sounds like is thinking about what you're eating, what you're putting in your body, which this is kind of, everybody knows this, but until you got the motivation to really think about what you're eating and not eat the stuff that you want to eat.
Right.
I mean, that's a big one, and that's the tricky one. And then also adjusting the schedule. Right?
Yeah.
Because you have to make time for your health.
Exactly.
And mostly like rest. Like one of the things that for me was really hard in my life was resting. I'm a person that I'm always busy.
Hard to sit still.
And
Yeah.
and I remember my mom just told me, "Calm down. What do you need to be doing all the time?" Because I used to go swimming practice, and after that I go and play the drums. And my mom was, "That's crazy, right?" So I learned a lot how to calm myself. Like if I don't do anything, it's okay. Like walking in the beach, I love the beach, but now I really enjoy try it if I have the chance, because my daughter practice very close to Cardiff, which I love Cardiff, and then I go take a walk. No, it doesn't matter if it's 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But it really makes you kind of breathe,
Yeah.
And it's one of the things that I read, that how important is the breathing and taking your time and don't get too stressed. Another thing I was really worried about I wanted to buy a house, and I wanted this, and I want this, and I want this, and I want this. So I feel like life, God or the universe, spank me. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
It was too much. It was too much. It was yeah. It need to happen. That's how I feel. Like after all the process that I went through, because after that I got in a kind of a depression, because I felt, and I was so close.
Yeah.
And after that, I realized, I need to change. I need to make changes in my life. Don't worry about the stuff, know. And it's very interesting, because when that happened, more things start to come, and even on our shows, people started, we started to get more connected to people, because now we're more projecting, and we sing a slow song. I try to really make it my own and express it, and
Yeah.
And I remember that one day we were playing in a show, and somebody asked us to sing Hallelujah, right?
Oh, really?
And then I sang, and everybody, at the end, it was silence. And then there was some people who was like, "Oh my God, that was amazing!" But it's everybody was in that moment, because we were there. We were so into the song.
You're present.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I want to come back to this idea about vision, right? Because if I'm hearing you correctly, it sounded like you were chasing a particular vision, and you kind of got a wake-up call and said, hey, that's not the right thing.
Exactly.
So there's a new vision, right? And I want to come back to that. But just before, we talked a little bit you were bringing up the idea about relaxing. Did you pick up, either one of you, have you ever worked with techniques to do that, to help with that, like mindfulness or meditation or anything?
I've years ago I did someone taught me how to meditate, and I only did it a couple times, and then I should have kept up with it. You know, yeah. So I, you know, lately I've been wanting to get into that, back into it, and then yoga, and you know.
Yeah, I did yoga for a long, like maybe when I moved to San Diego, I was really hooked to the yoga, and it's very interesting because I used to do yoga and swimming,
Okay.
and that was, I think, was when I was better in every aspect of my life, you know. And then when this happened, then I went back to the swimming because I swim all my life, you know, and so swimming for me became like a meditation because it's when you're in the water, you know, it's like you're with yourself and in the connection with the water, you know. So that I start to swim again, and I start to a little bit of yoga because, you know, it's hard to find sometimes the time, but now I'm trying to find the time.
Yeah.
And a long time ago, I took that was when I was in college in Mexico. It was this yoga teacher that give a little bit of a class about she called them physical mental physics, something like that, but it was about breathing and about listening to your breath, you know, and I've been doing it more because I remember it's very interesting when people they teach you those things, then you don't pay attention maybe you know, before, but then now in my life she's very present because she used to say every time that you feel like the pressure is getting to you, just breathe, you know.
Yeah.
And that breathing technique that I learned from her really helps me, especially when I start to feel that I'm going back to that place that I used to be before.
Yeah, breathing is very powerful, and maybe after the show I'll share a little bit with you some basic mindfulness stuff because it is one of those things that doesn't take much time, but it is amazingly powerful in terms of being able to kind of get back in the present moment, right? And I know that you guys, because you're musicians, have to do that because when you're playing music, you can't be ahead, you can't be behind, you got to be in it, right? Yeah. So that experience of being in the present is something that you're familiar with, and being able to call that up in other parts of your life is just really powerful.
Yeah, that would be great.
So tell me about the change in vision. What is the new vision?
Well, like I was telling you, like I think the vision right now is more the connection, you know, like if everything that if we do in terms of the music, like if we play something that really that's what a lot of times we say, what do you want us to play? Because when the people tell you, well, I like this song, then we play it and then it's a connection, and then we extend it so they can enjoy it, you know. And if you don't know it, well, maybe I'll give you more options, and we start to we used to do it, but now I think that we're doing it more like
taking requests,
and more like connection with people. Just really like it, you know, like and to know the people who come to our shows. Like we always do it, but I think that personally, I think that now it's like really I feel grateful, you know, when the people come to our shows and really take a time with them, you know.
Yeah.
Before it used to be more like, hi you guys. No, but now it's like we really stop and talk to them, know them, you know, try to, because one day we know them, we know what do they like to hear.
Yeah. Well, it's funny that you say that because I know a fair number of musicians with the stuff that I do, and if there was one thing that I found very characteristic of both of you is how incredibly like connecting you were with people and just willing to reach out. But this was even before you had the heart attack. So I'm like, if you didn't think you were connecting before, I'm like, wow.
Now it's more.
Yeah. So, and obviously connection is so important, right? Because we're all in it together, and we have to find ways to be connected. And of course, music is a powerful way to do that, right? So one of the things that I've brought up on the show in the past a couple of times is, in a certain sense, the importance of death for being able to bring focus to what really matters in life, right? And not like distracting yourself away from the question, but really honestly looking at your own mortality. You know, kind of like the old Stoic, phrase, memento mori, remember that you will die, remember your death. It can seem morbid, but it really, at least in my case, has really helped to kind of like what really matters. So has your thoughts about death and what that means evolved or changed since this?
For me, I mean, I've never, never been afraid of death. I've always been maybe afraid of what would happen to my family, if I were to pass away.
Who's left behind?
Yeah. Like, if I'm leaving behind debt and this and that, and yeah, that's what I'm more afraid of.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's a big one. So, has this caused any transformations in terms of figuring out ways to plan for that better?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. In the last couple of years, I've been kind of budgeting and paying off credit cards and taking care of this and taking care of that, and so yeah, I'm slowly taking care of all that stuff now. But yeah.
I know that's a big thing for our family too, because my wife doesn't always know about all the stuff that I take care of, and she always wonders, well, what if something happens to you? How am I going to know?
Exactly.
Yeah, and so I'm bad like everybody else. As much as I do focus on this stuff, actually sitting down and figuring out, okay, here's where the life insurance policy is,
Exactly.
Here's what the bank account codes are and all this kind of stuff, it's like,
yes, absolutely. Yeah. And we recently got life insurance, and and so I've been, and here's all the passwords, to get online for the accounts, and you can see what's going on. Yeah.
It's like just getting some of those things done, and I need to get better about that myself.
Yeah.
I've been really inspired by my parents who've been going through getting a lot of that ready, and they communicate that to us and make sure we know where everything is, and that's been kind of inspirational in a way to see that too.
But I didn't thought that before. Then when that happens, I was like, oh my God, what if I would, for example, for me that was one of the things that I got that really, when I was telling you about that depression, is because I started to think all the things that what if I would die that day? What if my daughters would have, like, nothing, or what, they didn't know what to do, or,
Yeah.
And after that I started to take care of things, and I started, one of the things that I realized is you never know, right? It can be, tomorrow. You never know,
Yeah.
But I think it's important to be okay with yourself, first of all.
Yeah.
And have all those things ready so you can, so nobody pays for that,
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's interesting, that part, because like I have a friend in Mexico, like after this happened, he came to see me immediately. And he's younger than me, way younger than me. And he told me, oh my God, I can't believe this happened to you, And I was like, yeah, you know what? I think that the best thing to think is to live every day, when everybody says, I live this day like the last day of your life. But I think that it's important. Like, it's important to, like, everything that you do every day is meaningful. That's one of the things that to me now is very important. Like, if I'm going to do something, it has to be meaningful.
Right.
Meaningful. Like, it has to have some, first of all, make me happy, because, I hear a lot of people being miserable in their jobs, and that makes me sad, because what if tomorrow happened to you? Then you're gonna go miserable, right?
Yeah.
No, I think it's important to do what you do makes you happy, and at the same time, the rest is gonna come. I think that when when you do the things that you love, the rest comes step by step.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's very interesting because when Jimmy and he started play, he was this person that one day come to our shows and it was kind of an interesting person because remember that he said this, I love your energy, guys. I'm gonna tell you something about you guys. But he said something that really stuck to my head. It's like when the people see passion, they pay for it. And I think that's very important. Like if you do if your job like a passion and it's meaningful, the rest will come.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely agree. It's the more we can find the things that we do have significance and meaning, then that's gonna go a long ways towards helping us feel significant and feel like there's meaning in what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, those are key. Well, this has been a little bit of a heavy topic, so maybe we'll break for a minute. And would you guys like to play us another song?
Yeah,
Sure.
let's play
Sure,
another
let's
song.
do it. Something happy, maybe.
Some happy. Just imagine that we're on the beach.
Guys, another fantastic song. What was this one?
An original song called Calypso Coronado. It's kind of a, I mean, it's summertime and so why not?
Yeah, people like that a lot when we play, like, you know, when they're on the beach or we're in the outdoors. They feel like, oh, we're in a beautiful place. I mean, we can complain. San Diego is beautiful. You know?
Yeah, yeah,
It's perfect. That song is perfect for San Diego.
yeah. So this is, again, you guys have such a full and amazing sound. How did you get there? Is this something where you guys, like, what kind of time do you guys spend practicing?
Actually,
You don't practice.
we don't practice together. We don't practice at
We
all.
practice together. We practice individually.
On our own. On our own we practice, but we don't practice together.
Really?
And so since we play, 5 nights a week, we get to practice a little bit at our gigs and
Sometimes we like if we have a concert, like we do different things in concert than when we play like in a restaurant or in a winery. And when we do a concert, we get together. But mostly it's mostly like a mapping. We're gonna do. But one of the things that we do really live that is look at everybody and kind of sense.
Yeah.
And
really try to figure out what they might like.
Kind of play off of the crowd.
Yeah. Yes.
And you always comment out that section is like the 80s. That section likes rock and roll. That section. So yeah, and that's how we work. Like, and I think that this is something like it's kind of it's kind of a connection. When I was telling you, like you can see. You can feel the energy of the people, and I think that with all this time playing and doing that, when we kind of develop that sensitivity to, well, Jim's like, back there, that people there, I'm pretty sure they like the 70s. They totally love the 70s, and we're playing it. They're like, yeah, it's a very strong connection,
So how long have you been playing together?
10 years.
10 years now.
Yeah.
10 years.
Wow. Because, you can definitely tell that you guys read each other extremely well, too, which I imagine if you're, doing most of your work live, you've got to have that sensitivity.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of it is jamming. We have the basic melody of the song, and so we'll play the melody on the front end of the song and the back end of the song, and everything in the middle is just kind of jamming, and whatever happens. Yeah, as long as we know how to start the song and end the song, and we get to have the fun in the middle of the song. Yeah.
So when we went to cover our eyes and play and see what happened, because sometimes we do things that happen and we look like that, but it's because also I think that we have I respect Jimmy a lot. To me, he's an amazing person, an amazing musician, my best friend. So that connection has to be totally also, energy, person, spiritual too. I think that in terms of spirituality, we also connect really good because I don't feel that you can reach the people if you don't have this connection.
Yeah.
It has to happen.
Yeah.
I saw a lot of bands that they're amazing musicians, but they don't have that, and it's
The
not.
chemistry.
It's just not
Yeah.
happen.
So you're using the word spirituality in talking about this. Let's go down that road a little
Okay.
bit. So, what do you mean by spirituality when you're talking about that?
Well, when I talk about spirituality, I feel like well, every person has a very strong connection with the universe,
Mm-hmm.
and you can sense how that energy. I always imagine this energy going,
Yeah.
like one day I read something that you can imagine that it's like a string going up,
Mm.
and and it's very interesting because I always was very fascinated about the energy of the people because I think that with all the years and a lot of things that happened in my life, I start to know a lot of people from different parts of the world and stuff, and then when they tell you their stories and then you see them, you say, okay, and now I can see why you have that energy more open, or your energy is, I feel like sometimes the people cover their energy, or they're very protected, they don't want to show who they are, and then that's what I feel about spirituality. I think that is that connection from your soul to the universe,
Mm. Yeah.
and you can feel it. Like it's very interesting, especially we always talk about, like, when you can even feel the presence of somebody that something happened, and I remember one day I was in a gig and it was one person in the back and I was like, oh my god, his eyes was telling me something.
Mm.
He was in a very disturbed place,
Wow.
and I feel like that feeling of his
Connection.
spirit was a little bit crushed,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I like that way of thinking about spirituality because it makes room for a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Right. Because I mean, if there's something people have a variety of opinions on, it's
Yeah.
Spirituality or religion, and so I know like some people will think that it needs to be a little bit more defined or specific, but the reason I like what you're saying is for people like myself and others who are coming from more of like a naturalistic perspective, the idea of spirituality sometimes will say, well, if you're an atheist, if you're a naturalist, then you can't talk about spirituality because that doesn't fit in your world. But that's not really true. There's definitely this idea of spirituality. It's just that it has more to do with this feeling of transcendence, of being able to connect with things that are larger than yourself. And those don't necessarily have to be, supernatural per se, right? I mean, like you're talking about this energy and connection with the universe. There's ways you could talk about that in fairly scientific ways, right? That would be compatible with that. But at the same time, it works for somebody who's got much more of maybe a traditional religious kind of thought, where there's like spirit world versus physical world and that kind of thing. So yeah, I like that. I think that works well.
And I was raised Catholic. I was raised Catholic, and I've been trying also to be more follow my religion, but at the same time feel like it's the energy you can deny it. I mean, it's something maybe like I say, like when we are right, we talk all the time about that. Like, man, today it feels right. Sometimes we have gigs that today feel like people was down. One of the things that happened to me in my life that it was very interesting was one day, I work with kids, and I think that also helped me to see that part because the kids, they're so sensitive to things happening in the world, and when something is happening in the world, some craziness, kids they cry a lot, or they're so sensitive, so they always feel like their spirits are so pure they can feel everything.
Yeah. I think that we do a lot to jade our perception of the world as we get older, right? And we have to really work hard at not getting shut down. Yeah, I know when I don't know. I can't really say that my life has been a hard life. We all have things that are difficult, and it might seem hard to us because that's what we went through,
Right.
even though it's not anything at all like what somebody else had to go through. But everybody's got, relatively speaking, ups and downs for sure, right? And how we cope with those and how we find ways of getting through it, it's going to make a big difference on, what life looks like going forward. If we get stuck in those traps of, negativity or blaming or not seeing hope or possibilities, it can make for a very dark road.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts, Jimmy?
Okay. Well, I'll be honest. I'm actually pretty lost when it comes to all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I'm lost. Yeah, I'm still trying to figure it all out. Yeah.
So when you say lost, you mean like you don't have any definite answers? You're more kind of questioning things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I learned things here and there, and just trying to see if I can put it all together and make any sense of it, and I used to love when you did the Drinking with Jesus.
Yeah.
And I picked up a lot from that. Yeah.
And maybe I should explain that real quick because people might not know what that was.
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
But so we had a weekly show that we would do where we'd have bands come in like you guys, and we would have it in more public places. So it actually started at the Fallbrook Brewing Company, which was a lot of fun. And then after about a half hour of music and people would have food and that kind of stuff, then we'd have an open discussion about Jesus. And but it was more from a historical, cultural perspective rather than kind of like a preachy type thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
And we did that so everybody could kind of find a way to participate and not feel like they were being called to believe certain things, but we could have more of a discussion.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and this is in a certain sense kind of an evolution of that.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am glad you got stuff out of that because I really enjoyed doing that, and I still find like sometimes people will be very surprised that I am so involved in Christian circles. Like if as a naturalist, which in case people aren't familiar with what that means, in a philosophical sense, it means that there's only the natural world. There isn't a supernatural part of it, which for religion seems like it cuts out a lot of what people think of as religion.
Exactly, yeah.
But surprisingly, this isn't unique in the history of Christianity, of different perspectives that have been around. I'm a big fan of what Jesus was up to, the prophetic movement, and the history of what happened and how that's impacted on through the years. So I really enjoy still, doing things like teaching Bible studies and
Very cool.
and that kind of thing. Even though people sometimes wonder, well, how does this work? So
Yeah.
That was really cool. Well, I'm a big fan of Jesus.
yeah. And for me, I like to, when I'm doing those kind of studies, help people understand, especially from a historical and a cultural perspective, what did it mean then? How did they understand it? And once we get that kind of figured out, then we can wrestle with, well, what does this mean for today, if anything, right? And that's a fun challenge too, of does it come forward? Does it make sense? Yeah.
No, I think it's important. I think it's important, especially because, like you said, like what the people was thinking, like what was happening at that time, and then nowadays, because I hear a lot of people that they have this battle in the religion, because the religion is telling me this, but I don't feel that that fits in my life. But it's like, well, it was in those times it was a different reality, right?
Well, and I think that there's a lot with religion that has evolved.
Exactly.
Right. So, I mean, if you want to get like particular about it, like within the biblical text, the earth is flat and either
Yeah.
round or square. They haven't quite decided on that one, with pillars underneath,
Mhm.
and there's a dome over it.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
And the sun, moon, and stars are on the inside of that
Inside,
dome,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Obviously, I shouldn't say obviously, because there's a whole slew of new stuff on the internet about flat Earth making a resurgence.
Yeah.
But for most people, it's very clear that we live in a solar system with the Earth revolving around it, that we're actually a sphere, and all this kind of stuff, right? And religion had to wrestle with that. And initially, it fought against it really hard, but eventually it figured out we can survive with incorporating this,
Yeah, exactly.
right?
Right.
And it evolved to the point where, okay, that stuff about the Earth being flat, we can recognize that as the term I like to use is cultural artifacts.
Yes.
That's how they thought about the world back then.
Back then.
We don't necessarily have to take that forward.
Right. I see.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And the same thing has happened in many churches. The idea of women being able to speak or preach in churches is now a possibility, even though the Bible seems to condemn it. Same thing in terms of like the ways that women's roles are understood within society, and then even the issue of slavery, right? Because the Bible never officially condemns it. And so before abolition, you actually had people in the church defending slavery. And that's changed. And of course, now the big battle that's still raging is about, homosexuality. And
Exactly.
so I think it's interesting when you see and you look back about how things have evolved. And even within the Bible, from the Old Testament to the New Testament, we see things changing, right? So I have a certain hope that it's going to continue to catch up to where we're at with things in terms of like science, because it's a very different world these days in terms of what we understand about reality. Not that we know everything, but we know a fair amount.
No.
It's exciting.
It's exciting because I saw a few days ago actually something about the expansion of the universe, and they were talking about all this information. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
It's just so much that we still need to figure out,
Right.
And that's, to me, that's the biggest question, I think, for everybody, in your life. Like, get all the answers is...
Well, and that's the thing. We never will have all the answers,
Exactly.
right? So, it gives us a project that will last as long as we're around.
Yeah.
But, it's interesting to see, how things work together. I think, part of our current social struggles are because of these shifting sands. When the traditional ways of looking at things start to get challenged, that can make people uncomfortable. But I think, it's signs of growing pains, that we're going through an interesting transformation right now that I think is actually for the better. I know there's a lot of doom and gloom out there and, end of the world stuff. And it's so easy to kind of sell that because fear gets people animated. But really, there's a lot of really positive things that have been happening too. And I think the more we can look at those things and use that as a foundation for how we approach real problems that we do have, because it's not that we don't have any problems, we'll be so much more successful. Right.
Yeah, and then the people, I think that people start to talk more, I saw people more talking and sharing stuff, and I think that's important.
Yeah.
Be open.
That's one of the things, I really work to try and promote here is that, we want to be able to talk about anything, whether it's religion or politics or whatever, right? But it needs to be a safe place too, where we're not, trampling on each other's ideas, but honestly engaging in questions and answers and that kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I've really enjoyed our conversation today, guys.
Yeah, I can keep going.
Well,
Please
we're
stop
just
me,
going to
but-
have to have you back then, right?
There you go.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah.
So, well, just before we close things down, can I get you to do one more song?
Yeah.
Sure.
Let's do another song. What do you want?
All right.
What do you want to play?
How about quizás?
Quizás.
Yeah. Perhaps.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
Nice.
So,
In our own version.
okay. We'll see what happens in the middle.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
again, guys. Wow, love it. Thank you so much for being
Thank
here.
you. Thank you for having us.
Yes, and I hope we get a chance to do it again soon.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
And thank you for having this show. I think this is very, very, for a lot of people, this is a very rich and very rich and so it's a lot of cool things happening here. So and keep going, keep
thank
going.
you. I appreciate
really encourage you to do it.
Awesome.
And thank you for support music.
Yes.
Yes. All right, everybody, have a good one.